John and I are going to be going over trading strategies. Um, there are only two main ones. We're just going to focus them on a broad level, and depending on how you implement them, there are there are different ways to implement them basically. So even though there are only two broad strategies, they have different methods of implementation. So, John, okay, actually, you know what? I can do the slide. That's fine. There are the two most common trading strategies are pairs trading and momentum trading. Pairs trading, the entry and exit is dependent on two or more securities. So you'll have to work with at least two different types of like stocks or asset classes or whatever it is. Usually you trade based on the spread between two co-integrated securities. And then momentum trading is entry and exit is dependent on the movement of one or more. So you only really need to follow one stock or ETF or whatever it is you decide to trade on. And then you look for changes in momentum. So that's the magnitude of the stock's movement. So when I say it can be implemented differently, one way to see how it's being implemented, or one of the ways that there could be a difference, it could be how the magnitude is being measured. So that would be an example of the variance within a momentum trading. So I'm going to go to the next slide. We have a question here already.
Yeah, so I saw the two questions in the chat. Three questions now. All of those questions are actually going to be answered in depth in the coming slides. So you guys are absolutely thinking on the right track, and you'll find out by the end of the night or the end of the half hour. It's not going to take that long. So let me give you guys a quick deep dive into pairs trading. So what is pairs trading? Why does it work? How does it work, etc.? The idea of pairs trading stems from this theory called mean reversion. So I wrote here, mean reversion simply posits that processes in nature tend to oscillate around some kind of equilibrium, and throughout times, it'll return to this equilibrium. The easiest way to visualize this and to understand this is by imagining a person who is flipping coins for infinite time. Maybe you start out with 10 heads, then you go 3 tails in a row or whatever. Over this period of basically infinite times, if you were to keep a running tally of the number of the number of heads and versus tails over time, you would see that there will be some fluctuations where some periods, maybe 51% of your flips have been heads, 49% tails. But over time, even with these fluctuations, you will see that the proportion of heads and tails will constantly fluctuate around a 50% level, 50-50 split. And no matter how high you go throughout time, you are guaranteed to return to this mean level. So this is basically the idea behind mean reversion. Whenever you have a process with some sort of identifiable equilibrium or a central tendency in this data, in this process, over time, you're just going to keep going back to this mean level. The big questions, of course, are when will you do it? Will be the severity, yada, yada, yada. But this theory basically says that's what's going to happen. Raisa, yes, we will be sharing these slides and the recording of this presentation once we're done with tonight. Next slide, please, Guhan. So here's how we apply it to stocks. Let's say you have 2 stocks that are co-integrated. I will say on the next slide what this means exactly. So the distance between these 2 stocks is generally going to be the same or very close. This basically means that over time, if one stock starts to move up very rapidly, let's say you're looking at Coke and Pepsi. It's a pretty good example to visualize. So you're looking at Coke and Pepsi, and suddenly Coke shoots up 5% while Pepsi, let's say, goes down 1%. These 2 companies are pretty related. I mean, they sell almost the same damn product. So what a pairs trade algorithm would do is it would say, okay, Coke shot up, Pepsi didn't, or whatever one I said before. So we're basically going to bet that the spread between Coca-Cola and Pepsi will converge back to whatever mean value the system has, whatever the equilibrium of the system is. for those who have taken differential equations or just like to think in that sort of nature. So the essence of a pairs trading algorithm is once you have identified this divergence, you're going to bet that it's going to close. A lot of times it will, sometimes it won't. The way you design your algorithm will dictate how much money you make or lose in either scenario. Next slide. So I've said this fancy schmancy term co-integrated a lot. Co-integration is a fancy statistical word that basically means the difference between two processes, time series, in this scenario, two stock prices over time will tend to be relatively stable. So a lot of you have heard of the term correlation. Correlation means that the actual movements in two processes over whatever period of time tends to have some sort of unison to it. Now, at first, a lot of people think correlation is what you want for pairs trading. The reason that co-integration tends to be hailed as the better metric for this approach is that co-integration looks at a longer time frame. Co-integration focuses on some sort of long-term mean that you can observe basically throughout the process and identify as a stable, almost fact, if you will. And since we're able to identify that these stocks have this sort of unison or this sort of, I guess, stable relationship over time, we can be confident when trading that, you know, this is basically whatever gap naturally exists between these stocks is the one that is going to stay stable. And whenever we diverge from this relationship, we can assume we're going to go back into the happy place for these two securities. So the last line on this slide basically talks about the nitty-gritty, the fundamental gist of a pairs trading algorithm. When you observe some kind of divergence in these co-integration, co-integrated securities, you're going to buy the quote-unquote lower stock, short the quote-unquote higher one. I put these quotes around because it makes it a little bit easier to understand that you're not shorting just whatever stock has a higher price and buying whichever one has a lower one, but rather whatever stock goes up in this divergence, you're betting it's going to go down a bit. Whatever stock goes down, you're betting it's going to go back up. Now, this being said, it's possible that both stocks will rally. So stock that you shorted, I mean, you're going to lose some money off of that. But the thing is, if these stocks keep this sort of equilibrium between themselves, which we are statistically confident that it will, the amount that the lower stock goes up should more make up for the losses you sustain from your higher stock. Same goes for if both stocks continue to, plow lower. Overall, pairs trading is seen as an often market neutral strategy. So you're kind of protected on the downside and the upside, which does capture gains, but more importantly, it really, really controls your losses. Next slide. On this slide, hopefully you guys can see it. It's basically a visualization of co-integration and correlation. These are terms, I told you basically co-integration means that they have some sort of constant difference. Correlation, they tend to move in unison. But now we have something to look at to really really get these concepts on the screen so that you can easily visualize them. So if you look at the topmost little graph right there, this basically displays two time series that have perfect co-integration and correlation. So you look at these two graphs, you'll see that basically their price movements or value movements, as it says, are practically identical. Whenever one goes up, it looks like the other one goes up the exact same amount. And so the distance between these two stocks or whatever they represent is actually constant. Now, if you go to your bottom left, you'll see another story. This data frame or whatever they're representing has absolutely zero co-integration. As you can see, the distance from the red line to the green line is always just completely different. But the actual movements within these two processes, these two lines, are very similar in that when one goes up, the other tends to as well. When the red line goes down, the green line goes down. So you can see that these two securities are very strongly correlated, but they're not co-integrated at all. Next, we see the last of the three cases, one where co-integration is perfect, but correlation is almost not even there. So if you look at it, the spread or distance between the red line and the green line is pretty easily measured to be roughly the same over time. On the other hand, you'll see that when the red line goes down, it looks like there's kind of a bit of a lag between itself and the green line going down or going up. So there are many cases here where your red line is increasing and your green line, on the other hand, is decreasing. This is basically the relationship of this time series for the entirety of whatever period they're measuring. That being said, the distance, as you guys can see, is relatively stable and constant, thus perfect co-integration, next to no correlation. Now on this second to last slide, technically, we're going to talk a bit, next slide. We're going to talk a bit about momentum trading. So as the name kind of implies, momentum trading means that you're basically trading a stock and your buy and sell signals are generated by the stock's movement and the price's movement over time. For those of you who know about momentum in physics, it's kind of a way to represent how fast something is going or how much force is acting on it, whatever interpretation. Its interpretation varies in different settings. But if you want to look at stock momentum in terms of stocks, let's say there's a security that's just started to enter an uptrend, which means it is starting to rise up over time. If you watch this uptrend start to get stronger and stronger, it's going up more and more, you can be pretty confident saying it's gaining momentum. In this scenario, you're probably going to buy more and bet that the stock will continue to rise. The same goes for if it's starting to go down in price and its descent is speeding up, you're likely going to short the security and build onto your position as the stock just goes down and continues to tumble. Given the nature of momentum trading, where you basically identify some sort of trend has started and then you enter your trade, I have dubbed it affectionately a kind of go with the flow approach, where you say, oh, okay, this was going on in the market, let me trade in that direction. There are a lot of different ways to implement a momentum trading algorithm, tons of different strategies you can employ. I won't go into them right now, but if you look up online quantity or even just a regular Google search, you're going to find just so many different options for this kind of trading algorithm. All right, now the last thing that we're actually going to talk about today is going to be not so much about the theory of your algorithm, but the practice itself. Next slide real quick. So I'm going to take control of the screen in a second to show you guys a little bit about how to get started with Quant Connect. All right. Yeah, so this is my computer. Should be in tech, quant, yes. So what you guys are going to do to get yourself started is go to quantconnect.com. We'll share the link for the website in the Discord after this presentation concludes. But basically right now, I'm just going to run through a general overview of how do you get started with the website, show you how to start your algorithm and whatnot. And then over the weekend, we're going to send out a more in-depth video about how to actually build and implement an algorithm in Quant Connect. So that being said, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to get on this website, click sign up for free. You do need to sign up for an account. It'll just make your life a lot easier. I'm already logged in apparently, so I guess I won't be able to show you the signing up process, but you just type in your email, password, standard kind of thing. So when you get into Quant Connect, you're going to see this little mainframe right here. This is going to be the dashboard that greets you. So once you log into Quant Connect, I do absolutely recommend you all go ahead and explore the website. The Learning Center right here actually has a whole bunch of very useful lessons for getting started with Quant Connect. The Bootcamp 101 US equities will tell you a lot about making strategies for them for US equities, which is what we're going to focus on. I don't recommend anyone going into like Forex options or international stocks. That's just, it'll just be too confusing and will cause more problems than it's worth. That being said, on this little learning center part of the website, they'll have a lot of different lessons you can use to learn to interact with Quant Connect, implement various strategies, et cetera, et cetera. So after you've poked around the learning center, looked at that aspect, I definitely recommend you just explore the Quant Connect environment. So I'm going to show you guys basically what happens when you say, okay, time for me to start making my first project. So you're going to click the create new algorithm button, and then it's just going to create this little space for you to start working in. So it does start out with two very important functions and gives your algorithm some kind of really weird name. I don't explain why they do stuff like this, but ugly yellow zebra is the one I got. You're all going to get crazy, wacky stuff. It's a fun little aspect. So two functions that will always start out with is initialize and on data. These both are extremely important algorithms to use. Initialize will, as the name implies, initialize your algorithm and set up whatever you're trying to do. In this scenario, it shows you that you can set the date you start. You can also set your end date, set your starting cash, add whatever stocks you want, so on and so forth. We'll tell you guys a little bit more about the specifics of all these random functions a bit later. Over the weekend, it'll be in that video. The other function it gives you is on data. This algorithm will trigger anytime that data is processed by your algorithm. So once you have created some sort of code, once you've put in whatever you want to put in, what you're going to do is you're going to click the build button. That'll basically compile your code and tell you if you have any bugs or any other annoying stuff you'll be spending a few hours working on. I say from experience. And then once you've done that, you can click a back test. And basically, once you click this back test button, it will run its various database through your algorithm and give you the results of how well you performed, including the base return of your algorithm, statistics like alpha, beta, Sharpe ratio, etc., and a whole just mix of statistics you can use to get insight on how well your algorithm did and try to improve it. To be honest, there is some metrics that I don't even know off the top of my head because they just give you a whole hodgepodge of stuff you might never even need, but hey, it's there if you want to use it. All right, so that being said, the last two things I want to talk about are the forum section of Quant Connect. I clicked it right. This is working. Awesome. So on this discussion forum, there's going to be all kinds of different threads related to almost anything you can imagine. Of course, the homepage would have showed the most recent stuff. Most of the time, it won't be relevant at all to what you're doing, but anytime if you were curious about how to do something, like let's say you want to know, okay, how do I code an EMA on Quant Connect? Type in Google EMA Quant Connect. Boom, you have a whole forum on how to use EMAs, etc. So this is going to be like the holy grail for getting information on how to use Quant Connect, and 100% recommend you take advantage of the just abundance of information in their forums. The last thing I want to talk about is underpricing. So Quant Connect does offer certain paid features that will just kind of let you do a bit more. That being said, I remember that last year when I checked the website out, they did offer like a student discount, I guess you'd call it, where basically for one of these packages, I don't remember which one, you basically just get a free year of it. I want to say it was the team package because it's like, yeah, so it's basically like a $240 discount. I'll look into that more later and give you guys info on it. Basically, if they still offer it, highly recommend that you take advantage of this student discount, sign up for it, because these little perks that they list on their website can come in handy. There are limits to how much time your algorithm can take, how fast it will run, stuff like that. And if you get one of these premium subscriptions, hopefully you can get them for free. Well, then it will make your life easier in some steps. So that's why I'm going to look into this, let you guys know, and hopefully everything works out and you guys can get your free student plans.
Just to be clear, you won't, like, we're not gonna hold it against you if you don't get the plan, and it's not gonna be like, it's just if you want to see or look into it, we're not saying you have to get it or anything like that. It's just if you want to explore that option, you can. It's an
Absolutely, yeah.
available option, but it's not mandatory. It's not like we're pushing you to, that's a lot of money, I know, for, so
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, Guhan. Yeah, we don't expect you guys to buy this if you have to pay for it at all. I actually would recommend you don't pay for it. It's not worth it. I don't think anyone like actually got the premium version last year, like even like the most basic $8 tier. Because honestly, you can be fine without it. It's just that if we can get it to you for free, it would make your life a little easier, because also you could actually collaborate on the same algorithm, like through the website, which will just make it easier. So we'll get into that, let you guys know, be on the lookout for it. But if we can't get it to you guys for free, like, don't sweat it. Just use the basic plan. It's more than enough.
Do you recommend any other free options that we can use online to learn? YouTube?
Yeah.
Stack Overflow? Google as a whole, really?
Yeah, and then there is a little Google Doc we'll send out to you guys. It just has a link to a few quant specific websites that will get you all the information you might find useful. You might find it not useful. It'll be there if you need it. But anything else you want to add, Guhan?
Yeah, so for the free options that you can use to learn, I know it sounds really vague. It's just that as you pursue specific strategies, or like as you go deeper, you won't really need to learn a lot. You just need to learn specific things. So that's why I left it so broad, because like as you go deeper, you'll know what you're looking for.
Absolutely, yeah, it's a great point.
Will next Thursday be our first round of presentations? Yeah. Thank you for that question. Actually, let me quickly get to it. John and I are looking for. We'll send out a more detailed email and we'll post it on the Discord as well. But here's what we're gonna look for: all the teams to have at least an idea of what strategy they'd like to pursue, and with that, why they're pursuing that strategy. So like, what are the pros and cons, and why are you pursuing that particular strategy? If you can get to how you plan on implementing it. So within momentum, I said there are different ways to calculate the momentum gain. So if you could look into that and see which one you would pursue. And then the fourth thing is, and this is a stretch, but if you can actually start coding it out and have like a basic outline of the implementation of it.
Yeah, don't stress too much on the coding aspect. It will take you a while just to get used to Quant Connect. So focus more so, I would say, on Guhan mentioned earlier, like just thinking, what do we want to do? Why do we want to use it? What are our next steps? I mean, if you can put something together in code, that's awesome. If not, don't worry at all.
Adas, do we need a PowerPoint for the presentation? Yeah, 2 slides, 3 slides.
Yeah, just some kind of visual. I mean, if you want to put together like Canva or something like that, hey, if you can make it work, you can make it work. Absolutely recommend PowerPoint because it's standard for presentations and optimized for it, but some kind of visual presentation aspect is all we ask for.
We do want to see it in writing, so it's not like you're just making it up on the spot. I know I've done that. Don't do that. Where are presentations going to be and how long will they run? They're going to be on Zoom. You're either going to send it to us, or I think you're just going to send it to us, and then we'll share our screen like we did today. Then you'll be talking while we share. How long will they run? 5 minutes per group next week, probably, unless you have code, in which case 7 to 10 maximum of 10 for next week. Did the recording for the previous meeting get posted, and where can we find it?
Yes, it was posted. So I had to put it on YouTube because the file was too big for Discord. So I sent a link to the YouTube video in the Discord. I'm going to try to put something together so you guys can easily access all the links.
We'll figure out how that works. Together like a Google sheet or something like that. So we have dates, topics, and then pin it on Discord.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Shivam, actually. That's smart.
Are these meetings always going to be at 10 on Thursdays?
They will not. This was a special circumstance that is me having to run home after an 8:30 p.m. class. So I literally got in like 9:50, so that's why we had to have it so late. Usually they'll probably be like 8:30. We are gonna get you an official schedule of the times this weekend, we hope.
Yeah.
We might actually ask you guys just to fill out a quick Google form or something like, hey, when are you available to meet? Schedule it around that, because we want to make sure that we can have as many people come to these meetings without it interfering with their schedule in any way.
Any more questions? There are a few from the beginning. You can have a dedicated channel on Discord for resources, video links.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would probably work well. We think, yeah, I'll probably put something together like that. I'll just have to make sure it never gets like flooded so that everything's buried. But yeah, that's absolutely a doable thing for us.
Okay, we're gonna wrap up the recording now.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, John.